Howdy, today I'll be reading Legacy by Sandtalon on AO3. It's one of, if not my favourite fics in the MHA fandom. So, without any further delay, I'll get right into it. Summary. Izuku Midoriya is one for all. One for all is Izuku Midoriya. He barely remembers that last battle, barely remembers when All For One had forced another quirk into his genetic code. He'd stopped aging once it was passed on. Now, centuries in the future, All For One breaks the promise holding Izuku's life together. Izuku has seen heroes rise and fall for ages at a time, claiming to act in his name. Too many lives have been lost for his flawed legacy. It's time to end this once and for all. Toshinori is a goddamn idiot. Less than a day ago, he'd left to fight his arch nemesis. All For One had laughed before weighing lace to Toshinori, and Mirai had been stuck on the sidelines, his quirk useless without skin contact first, and Toshinori had made it perfectly clear where he belonged in this fight. He'd watched from the sidelines as All For One nearly murdered his partner. The win was confirmed, but no body recovered. Mirai saw the future, his lover facing an impossible battle, and blinked. All Might could easily end his career safely, and nobody would be the wiser. Toshinori refused, 10 minutes ago. Refused his request to fight for the future together. Which is why Mirai is here, and not by his lover's bedside. You should talk to him, is the first thing Mirai hears when he steps out of the hospital. Midoriya is beside him, though how he got there is anyone's guess. The teenager watches traffic goes by, hands folded neatly in his sweatshirt that simply reads the word sweatshirt. I did, Mirai says hoarsely. He doesn't know why he's confiding in Midoriya of all people. He hardly knows the kid. Just knows their most valuable tip-off came from a teenager with green hair and patience stretching out to infinity. Midoriya had refused to meet All Might, so Mirai had interviewed the kid instead. Midoriya had left a lasting impression. Something about the quirkless boy is older than the hospital's foundations, and Mirai knows instinctively that Midoriya has kept bigger secrets than the one man shattered love life. You think he will die, Midoriya says, as if he was commenting on the weather. Mirai's breath catches. I can't say what I saw, Midoriya. I know, but history repeats itself, which is its own type of foresight. He's going to keep being a hero, Mr. Night-Eye. Midoriya continues gently. All of them do. Even if they can't fight, can't move, they'll still be heroes. Isn't it better to treasure them all before they're dead? Mirai's mind supplies. He knows what Midoriya is saying, he just doesn't want to hear it. Toshinori always defies expectations. Mirai can't help but mutter. Good, Midoriya says, still watching the traffic. Tell him not to emulate them, his predecessors. Blood freezes in Mirai's veins. Midoriya is a civilian. He shouldn't know. He shouldn't have heard of One For All. He shouldn't be able to imagine the amount of blood on All For One's hands. But Midoriya had known of All For One's location, provided that last crucial piece that ensured the success on this last battle. Still, even if the villain is connected to this child, it's not information Mirai can give up freely. I'm not sure I know what you mean, Mirai tries, but he's already brittle and broken from the day. It falls just short of convincing. Midoriya pulls up his hood against the wind and bows. He's already survived once, you know. Hardest part is over. Midoriya straightens, expression calm as always. Good day, sir. Please watch out for him. Midoriya disappears into the crowd, and Mirai is left alone. He would have been silent, would have spent years not talking to Toshinori if not for the hurried call informing him that somewhere out there is a green-haired boy who knows entirely too much. All Might and Sir Night-Eye stay partners. It's a close thing for a while, but they manage. The USJ will be attacked tomorrow, is the first thing Shota hears when he wakes up in a dumpster. He remembers chasing criminals, remembers being ambushed. It's not a rare thing for underground heroes, but this is his first dumpster in nearly 2 years. The pounding headache is going to be one hell of a ride, and he knows from experience the twisted ankle will put him out of commission for more than a few days. The green-haired boy sitting on the dumpster edge flips through a newspaper, steaming mug of ginger tea behind him. He nearly resembles a salaryman on his way to work, as he scans the stock market column before flipping to obituaries. Children should be looking at comics, not either of those sections. Come again, Shota wheezes. His field phone mercifully is intact as he fumbles with it for a bit before the boy plucks it out of his hand, guesses his passcode on the third try, and activates the emergency tracking app. It's not a quirk, this kid is just weird. Shota mutes the phone and fixes the child with what parental glare he can manage. The kid is probably skipping class, but there's no uniform to track, just a nondescript jacket and a white shirt that says T-shirt. The USJ. Tell Toshinori he needs to take it easy, the boy says casually, and Shota snaps to full wakefulness. There's only one Toshinori. The man who answers to that name is practically made out of national secrets. He's been taking more days off because of Sir Night-Eye, but they really need to work out a schedule. What? Boundaries, the child says with all the exhaustion of a grizzled veteran. He needs to set boundaries, or his quirk will run out. Last 3 who had didn't. They're all gone now. Maybe All Might will be different. Shota very nearly stops breathing at all the implications there. What do you mean? I suppose it's his secret to tell. The boy regards Shota for a moment. If someone were doomed from the start, and you still wanted to help, but helping would possibly be more painful for everyone involved, would you? Shota knows in this instant that something is very wrong. He sits up as much as his twisted ankle will allow and meets the kid's eyes. I would do whatever I could to keep people safe, happy, and free to make their own choices. A hero's choice, the kid notes approvingly, but Shota can't find the patronizing note. What if failure were the nightmare scenario? Then I would access my options and find a solution outside of the set parameters, Shota answers instantly. It's an old ethics problems heroes got on their written license exam. What does this have to do with All Might? Everything, nothing. The boy folds up his newspaper and hops down from the dumpster. He tucks the newspaper under his arm in a surprisingly quaint gesture and bows slightly. Keep your class away from the USJ this week, Eraserhead. No sense in adding to his kill count needlessly. Before Shota can ask who he is, and the mug of tea is removed from the dumpster edge. Keep them safe, Eraserhead. Thank you for saving so many. With that, the kid trots off down the alley like it's the easiest thing in the world. Shota stares after the teenager with a vague sort of horror. He stays lost in thought even as when his agency response team locates his dumpster. Izuku, you're never going to believe this, Izuku yells as he climbed through Bakugo's kitchen window. I just met Eraserhead. Mitsuki raises an eyebrow. Yeah, good for you. Who's that? He's an ass. Katsuki grumbles into his egg and toast. The family has just sat down to breakfast, so Izuku's right on time. Sure, he has his own apartment, but he tries to stop in at least once a month at least. Izuku plops happily in his chair. He's known this family for generations, always stopping by sooner or later to check in on them. It's all he can do, really. They're Mai's sentence. And somewhere along the line, the family has ended up acknowledging that every member of the family will just have the same childhood friend. He babysat Katsuki, Mitsuki's mother and grandfather, and more. They all grew up knowing that Izuku will unexpectedly show up sooner or later, much in the same way that the neighborhood cat will come and go as it pleases, except this time with occasional weird life advice. Izuku never stays for too long, never forms bonds he can't afford to break, but he will always be there, a part of their life stories. They are Mai's family, and he owes her this. I meant his job, brat. What does he do for a living? Mitsuki says, handing Izuku a bowl of miso soup. Izuku accepts it and the plate of toast. Thank you, he's my homeroom teacher, Katsuki interrupts. You literally know this. Katsuki manners, Masaru says quietly. Izuku laughs at the scowl Katsuki directs his way. You're fine. Speaking of, I advise against attending the USJ field trip tomorrow. It might be attacked. Mitsuki swears. You told the heroes? I had a lovely morning tea with Eraserhead and read the paper in good company. Izuku takes a bite of his toast before adding, but yes, I did. Mitsuki frowns. Katsuki, we're scheduling your doctor's appointment for tomorrow. Like hell we will. Katsuki snaps, immediately springing up. Mitsuki slams both hands down on the table, causing dishes to rattle as her voice rises over Katsuki's. You absolutely fucking will be missing school tomorrow, Bakugo Katsu. Now sit your ass down. Katsuki's hands cackle on the fireproof table. Shut it, old hag. I go where I want to go. Can I get some tea? Izuku asks. Masaru doesn't seem to hear him. Instead, burying his nose in the morning paper Izuku brought back from his conversation with Aizawa. It's my goddamn right to decide if I want to attend whatever shitty school event I want, Katsuki screeches. The dishes rattle dangerously. And it's my right as your mother to keep you safe. Hero can't, career be damned. Mitsuki shouts right back. Can I please get some tea? Izuku asks wearily. He's too short to reach the tea cupboard. It's my fucking career. And you're my fucking son. Katsuki screams in wordless rage and grabs his toast, stomping off to locate his school bag. He nearly crashes into the doorway and gives vent to his fury with a sharp, Motherfucker! Yes? Masaru asks suddenly, and Izuku chokes on his soup. Katsuki stops, stares at Masaru, and edges out of the room, deathly pale. Izuku waits until Katsuki starts making frustrated key-tetton noises in his room upstairs before breaking into wheezing laughter. Oh my god. Mitsuki stares at her husband in awe. How long do you think it'll take for him to say that again? 2 weeks, Izuku guesses. Masaru shakes his head and holds up 3 fingers. Want to bet? 1,000 yen on 2 weeks, Izuku decides. 1,500 yen on less than a week, Mitsuki says. 700, 3 or more, Masaru says quietly. He buries his nose in the newspaper again, evidently done with the conversation for the day. Mitsuki rolls her eyes at the low wager and heads to the tea cupboard, pulling out 3 mugs and the ginger tea. So, Izuku, what's the latest? Night Eye's new intern is looking promising, and the stock market is definitely going to go down. Also, lower-level criminals are starting to go quiet, so something's up. Masaru, you should be careful walking home from work. It'll be fine, he says from behind the paper. Mitsuki raises an eyebrow, passing Izuku his favorite ginger tea and a mug. He's taught all of Mai's descendants basic self-defense, but Masaru married into the family. He didn't have those lessons growing up. Izuku finishes making his tea, humming. I worry, Katsuki's overconfident too. I haven't finished teaching him to fight, and UA attracts trouble. People I'm tied to are making mistakes. I'm also thinking about visiting the forest for a break. Mitsuki and Masaru exchange a glance. How long? Mitsuki asks, and Izuku tries not to shrink away at the resigned note in her voice. He knows it's not good to disappear like this. Sometimes he needs to lose himself for a bit and decides to leave for a year or a decade, just forget. Mitsuki's family has always been understanding, but they're hot-headed too. My descendants are always scarily similar to Izuku's childhood friend. Some days it's more painful than others. I don't know, Izuku says quietly. Maybe a couple months or a year. 3 years at most. There are respects I need to pay, and I want to visit some graves. There are so many graves. He'll end up in the forest eventually. It's where everything ends, every time. One of the Bakugos will probably find him there in 4 years, already forgetting the last decade. They all know it. Mitsuki tilts her head. I'll be along to check in if you take too long, understand? I won't be the generation to lose you, Izuku. Fuck that shit, we're your family. Family. Izuku only has one brother, one family member who will stay the same throughout the years. Everyone else is gone eventually. He hops up, taking his dishes to the sink and grabbing a sponge. Thanks for the breakfast and everything, Mitsuki. I'll try to be back soon. You will be at Katsuki's graduation from UA, Mitsuki tells him. She pulls Izuku into a hug, ignoring how the dish soap drips onto the floor. She's never really cared about things like that. She reminds him of Mai. I will see you there, or so help me. I will, Izuku promises. His vision blurs with tears as Mitsuki combs a hand through his hair, so not that it'll ever stay untangled. A second later, Masaru joins them, wrapping Izuku in a squished cinnamon roll hug. Footsteps pound down the stairway before Katsuki's weight crashes into them. Oi, shitty nerd, you leaving again? Just for a little bit longer this time, Izuku promises, and hopes it's only a month before the world stops pressing in on him. I'll be back. You better be, or I'll drag you back myself, Mitsuki huffs. Tsukauchi is dead tired, primarily because it's the beginning of the school year, and that means there's a whole army of children about to leave break. Yay for them! The end of break is right about when they get into their minds that with all this homework to procrastinate, vigilantism might just be the cool new hobby. He's had to give his "don't be a dumbass" speech multiple times today. So when Eraserhead approaches him and says, "There's a kid who knows too much," he takes a moment to stare blankly at the far wall. Eraserhead, who is a godsend and is used to dealing with the mind-numbing exhaustion that is a crowd of teenagers, limps away and shortly returns with 2 coffees. You'll get used to it, he says, and the condolence feels like a prison sentence. Seen a kid with green hair, knows too much, called All Might by his given name? Around 15, 16, maybe. Bright red shoes? Tsukauchi nearly chokes on his coffee. His hands shake as he pulls out his desk drawer and reaches for the file taped to its underside. Eraserhead raises an eyebrow, glancing around for eavesdroppers. These days, most detectives keep files hidden on sensitive hero cases, and underground heroes are in more than a few. Tsukauchi finds the paper-clipped camera stills he needs and tries not to let his nerves show. Is this the kid? Eraserhead takes the offered pictures. They're grainy from the security of All Might's agency when Izuku wandered in and spoke secrets like he was discussing the weather. He'd refused to meet All Might, but spoke freely with his lesser-known sidekick, and disappeared shortly after. Night Eye had talked to him again later outside the hospital, assuming the boy could be traced. He'd assumed wrong. Since then, nothing. Midoriya Izuku may as well not exist. He either left Japan entirely or avoids security cameras and isn't registered on any legal documents. Sakauchi has been working to find him off hours but turned up a blank. Until now. Eraserhead sorts through before handing them back. It's him. Thank fucking God. What'd he do? He perched on the edge of a dumpster, drank tea, and read stock reports, then told me to pass on that All Might needs to set boundaries. Something about the last 3 who had his quirk not doing that now that they're gone, and I'm not even going to ask about what that means, but we should let him know. Eraserhead glances back at the picture and takes a sip of his coffee. Said the USJ will be attacked, asked a couple of rhetorical questions about when it's right to intervene. The USJ? Unseen simulation joint, probably. UA's got a separate training ground for unusual terrain. My class will be there soon. Sakauchi eyes the pictures. This is the only lead he has after years of silence. Midoriya must be close to 20 now, but Eraserhead called him a kid. Let's start from the top. Where'd you wake up? The story is simple. Eraserhead keeps his reports impartial and straight to the point. Interestingly, his estimated age for Midoriya is between 14 and 16, and Sakauchi trusts a high school teacher to know what his students look like. He records it all and sits back, rubbing his eyes. Eraserhead glances between Sakauchi and his now empty coffee. I'm going to take a wild guess and say this is more than just a kid skipping school. Sakauchi pauses. Eraserhead knows the underground and was approached by Midoriya. He has experience dealing with children and has the perfect quirk to deal with any difficulties Midoriya might bring up by resisting arrest, should the supposed quirklessness be a lie. He has skills Sakauchi and Night Eye need. He's a good hero, one of the best. This can't get out. Eraserhead raises an eyebrow and waits. Right, Midoriya mentioned All Might. Most heroes know that All Might keeps his quirk quiet for the advantage against villains. They know better than to ask or spread rumors, especially not one as experienced as Eraserhead. This is a lot of classified information, but I can say with absolute certainty that Midoriya is our last lead. Night Eye and All Might are all also in on it, but that's it. Sakauchi sorts through his file, locating one paper detailing Midoriya's report. He'd long since blacked out All for One's name and anything to do with All Might's quirk, but Sakauchi double-checks before handing the file over. Eraserhead reads, straightens up, and reads further. The date. 5 years ago, Sakauchi draws in a shaking breath. 5 years ago, Midoriya Izuku walked into All Might's agency. He told us where to find the greatest villain in history and called it a personal responsibility. After the attack, he met Night Eye at the hospital and alluded to All Might's quirk, but left before we could question him further. We haven't seen him since. To be completely honest with you, I'd begun to think he'd died. He didn't, Eraserhead says. He asked me when it's right to help people if they're doomed anyway. Said something about All Might's quirk belonging to other people. In light of this, I may pull my class from their field trip. Sakauchi considers this. It feels like a storm warning. We need Nezu. Sakauchi finds himself in front of the UA principal's desk early the next morning. He spent a sleepless night in the station going over everything he could find on Midoriya, and uncovered nothing of importance except for a brief shot from a security camera positioned near the dumpster Eraserhead was thrown into. Underground heroes really have it rough. Sakauchi tries his damned hardest to hide a yawn, but he is very tired and just on the edge of having no shits to give. Aizawa shoots him a commiserating look. Just make it through the first hour, Aizawa whispers. He lets us get coffee if it goes past that. Jeez, an hour? They'll need an exorcist to keep Sakauchi awake by the end of this. Nezu is helpful in an unhelpful kind of way. He takes the picture of Midoriya and listens appreciatively to Eraserhead's report, only interrupting to offer Toshinori a handkerchief when surprised coughing turns bloody. Tsukauchi doesn't blame him. Old ghosts are never easy to deal with. When it gets to the contents of the message, Eraserhead locks eyes with All Might. Have you thought of taking more time off to recover? Toshinori coughs quietly. I can't stop being a hero. If the symbol of peace is compromised, you know how villains will react. That's a risk to civilian safety I won't take. He's not wrong, Eraserhead argues with cold, ruthless logic. I'm ashamed we're only discussing it because some random kid said it over a goddamn newspaper. Damn, Eraserhead, go off, I guess. Toshinori blinks at him, and Tsukauchi realizes he just said that out loud. Sorry, long day. I'd like to meet him, Nezu says slowly, bringing all of them back to the fact that a child has enough knowledge to topple Japan's entire society. We will proceed with the USJ field trip tomorrow, and I will accompany you. Hi, what the fuck? I don't know if that's a good idea, Naomasa starts slowly, because there's only so many ways to tell a super genius he's making a dumbass decision. Eraserhead seems to be of a similar mindset. I'm not endangering my students, Eraserhead growls. We don't even know if the kid will be there, and you're endangering my students for your curiosity? There are even more potential losses if we don't. Nezu smiles. Plastic fake. Toshinori clears his throat. If I may, the legend amongst them says, I would like to meet young Midoriya as well. If the USJ is our best guess as to where he'll appear, what's to stop us from changing the field trip day and going to meet him? Just a few of us. There will be villains, Eraserhead counters. We'd have to pull in heroes from outside campus, and there's no way the press wouldn't notice. The only faculty free at the time are Recovery Girl, Lunch Rush, and 13, Nezu supplies. I'd like the class to be there. People his age may make Midoriya more willing to talk to us, and I also have a theory to test. A theory? Eraserhead repeats disbelievingly. You're putting my class in the midst of a villain attack for one theory? Nezu hums in agreement and pours more tea. A couple. I believe we're dealing with a longevity quirk. That being said, the real concern is how much he knows about your quirk, Toshinori. Silence settles over the room. I'll step out, Eraserhead starts, but Toshinori holds up a hand. No, if you're on the investigation team, you'll find out sooner or later. Tsukauchi trusts you, and so will I. That level of trust with a national secret is terrifying. Author notes. Izuku, I just had a lovely morning tea with Eraserhead. It was very nice and civilized. Eraserhead, I just met a cryptid child in a dumpster? Hey, it's me. Maybe not your favorite pod figure, but, I hope I'm somewhere near the top. Anyway, again, this is one of my favorite podfics, and whenever the author decides to update, I'm always makes my day. When I remember to check, anyway. But yeah, I hope you guys all really enjoy it. This one was 2 chapters in one, but that's just because the first chapter is like a beginning bit. And so it was really short, and I figured, you'd probably want a little more than just that for your first chapter. Anyway, so yeah,